to the podium.
I don't kiss all the men in the room. Oh, the what? Oh, in the cubbyhole.
Oh, okay.
Kid dilemma. They're making some important things. You may find out in May on Mother's Day. I'm just saying. So, okay, good. I got all my props up here. Oh, I'm having so much fun lately preparing talks for Sunday celebration, and I have a prayer partner or a spiritual life coach that I see monthly, and he continues to inspire me. And one of the things I found is, I'm off on a tangent. Okay, I'm listening to God instead of me. God says that God through me says, once upon a time, I used to give talks that were really inner-led, and it was really powerful experience for me, and I trust it was powerful for other people in the room. And then what happened once was one morning I was preparing a talk, and I opened up my emails as I was preparing my talk, and I got this really horrible email from somebody who I thought really liked me, and they had nothing but negative things to say to me, and it lasted about a page long, right before Sunday celebration. And it kind of took the wind out of me, and from then on I've relied heavily on notes. So my spiritual life coach kind of brought that back to my awareness, like, why did I stop doing that? And so here I am back practicing a skill that I fairly enjoy. It resonates with me. And again, just to emphasize, when we work with a prayer practitioner, how we are able to bring issues to light that may not be serving us, and we can remove the pain and the suffering that is really a thought in our head and see clarity that we might have a new experience. So here, you're experiencing the newness with me. Aren't we having fun so far? Thin slicing. Things aren't always as they seem. Thin slicing. Has anyone heard that term? Okay, good.
Cheese that way.
What's that?
I do cheese that way.
I know, right? Anyway, we won't go off on that tangent. This one refers to the ability of our consciousness to find patterns in situations and behaviors based on a very narrow slices of information. I don't know about you, but when I meet people, I have a tendency to compartmentalize people into the little boxes that I've created in my mind, and I do it very quickly. And I'll function them over in that. For instance, one of my favorite thin slicing obvious ones would be if you're wearing a Lululemon, Arc'teryx, Columbia, sporty looking outfit, I right away put you in the athletic box just because of the clothes you're wearing. It may have nothing to do with you as a person, and yet that's a thin slicing that I would do. So that's an example, and I'm sure there are hundreds and hundreds of them that we can think of. Ernest Holmes teaches us in Science of Mind, he says, race suggestion is a very real thing. And each individual carries around with them, we have written into our mentality many impressions which we never consciously thought of or experienced necessarily. There's a unity maintained with all people. Our individual mentalities, our individual thinking, and what happens is within this unity, we're sympathetic with other people's thinking. Okay? Because we're all connected as one, our mental way of thinking is sympathetic. So when I see somebody dressed in that way, I am sympathetic. That doesn't mean sad for, but I relate to them just because of the way they dress, and I think they're athletic, right? So we receive these suggestions from other people all of the time. And this is the meaning of mental influence, which is indeed a very real thing. It creates our race consciousness, the race beliefs that we have. If I were to look at you and go, that in itself has a suggestion that you would read into that. And we have an agreed upon community agreement of what a look like might mean. And yet, for instance, a really interesting one that you might not know about is dogs, for instance. When you get a new puppy, it's very important that you take time to smile at your puppy. Because if you look at dogs, when they go, what does that mean? Aggression, right? They go, "Arr." So imagine you get into the human world and everybody's going like this to you. And they think you're growling. The only dog I know that really smiles is a lab. When they're running, they smile. But every other dog doesn't smile. They go, "Arr." Right? And so it's important for us to teach the dogs the race suggestion of what teeth mean from a human perspective, which is happiness. Right? When we're unhappy, we don't show our teeth. Dogs do. So we can take this across cultures. In fact, it's so powerful. Malcolm Gladwell, one of my favorite speakers and novelist, he studies social behavior and writes about it. He's from Toronto, actually, and he wrote the book Blink. Some of you may have read it. In there, he discusses this experiment that was done, and they had 2 buttons. They had a button for guns and a button for wrenches. And so what they did was they showed a series of slides in front of different individuals, and when it was a slide of a gun, they were to hit the gun button, and when it was a slide of the wrenches, they were to hit the wrench button. Not very difficult, right? Gun, gun, wrench, wrench. And so this was the process. Well, what they did was they started sliding in faces before they would show the picture of the gun or the wrench. And sometimes it would be a face of a black person, and sometimes it would be a face of a white person. And when they flashed a black person, whether it was a gun or a wrench, they hit gun. And when it was a white person, whether it was a gun or a wrench, the tendency was to get the answer right. But as soon as they put a black face first, gun. And then the other thing they noticed is that take the faces out, gun, wrench, and they speeded it up. Gun, wrench, gun, wrench, 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 gun. Well, what happened was the tendency under stress was for the individual to go gun, 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 gun. Interesting. So thin slicing is about our reaction in those very fine moments where we make judgments, where we come across a scenario and we just make a judgment based on already conditioned beliefs that we have in our minds, not necessarily based on truths. And so the brain, what we need to know right away is the brain can trick us into thinking something that may not be true. Totally. May not be true at all. What you think is happening may not actually be happening. In other words, we see things based on our own filters and our own past experiences, current as well, and our mental attitude. Many times I've talked with people and they say, Linda, can I have your help actually with this? They say that, that person doesn't like me very much. I'm like, what are you talking about? Can you hand one of these out to everybody? Just give a finger in the room here. So have a look at these. You might need to share. Oops. So have a look at this sheet. If you have, maybe you might need to share. Linda's got a few more. Anybody have trouble reading that? Oh, some people need to get their glasses out. Thanks, Linda. The brain can trick you. Turns out we don't need to go to English classes after all and learn spelling. That as long as we get the first letter and the last letter right, everybody can read whatever it is we're putting onto paper. Isn't that curious to you? Isn't it curious that you can actually understand what's written on that paper and how the mind tricks us into knowing what it says, even though it's all scrambled? I think it's amazing. They did this experiment in psychology. It's called the rubber hand illusion. And what they did was they took subjects and they put them in a little booth. And in the booth they had their right hand, and then there was this like wall where their left arm went on the other side of the wall. And in place of their left arm they put a rubber hand. So what they couldn't see their real left hand. They could only see the rubber hand and the right hand. And so the person conducting the experiment took a paintbrush to both the rubber hand and the left hand and painted and brushed index finger, middle finger, baby finger, index finger, and brushed the rubber hand and the hidden left hand. And eventually what happened was the observer would begin to sense feeling in this as if the rubber hand was their own. So they continued this for several minutes, rubbing both hands, and then they would pause and they would take out a needle and go like this as if they were going to stab it into the rubber hand, and always the person would pull their real hand away even though they were attacking the rubber hand. Things aren't always as they appear. Right? And so we make these snap judgments, just like the individual pulling away the rubber hand, thinking that they're going to get hurt. And snap judgments have nothing to do with intuition. We sometimes might think they do. We might sometimes call it intuition. But really, these are based on past experiences and ideas. They're based on training and upbringing. It's like children. My kids were trained at a very young age to hug everybody. And I find it very interesting when I meet people who train their kids to not hug or talk to strangers even. And there are my little kids going, hugging every person that they meet in the street. I'm like, share hugs, you know? And other people to teach their children not to do that. So they have totally two different ways that they then grow up into life based on an idea that was impressed upon them that may or may not be true about the individual that they're meeting. Both ways. On the one hand, my kids think everybody's your best friend, and on the other hand, and they may not be, and on the other hand, the other child may think that every person may be out to get you, and they may not be. Right? So what we impress upon our children, what's been impressed upon us, forms the way in which we respond to the world. We can't help it. It's conditioning. This is also indicated, he tells another story in the book, which is heart-wrenching. There's this young man, it's a story, I don't know how far back it goes, well over 10 years. His name's Amadou Diallo. And he is an African-American, just actually recently moved to North America. Can't remember what city he lived in. But anyway, happened to be late at night, and for whatever reason he was downstairs at the base of his building where he lived, just hanging out. Maybe he was having a smoke, I don't know. He was just hanging out in the street for whatever reason. And there happened to be a unmarked police car with 4 policemen driving by. And immediately they suspected him. Now you need to know, there's a whole pile of details that pile up onto this investigation. All of them were rookies in the car. And what they saw when they drove by in their snap decision was a black man standing at the base of a building looking suspicious. So in their observation of this and their collaboration of what was going on, they pulled over and they decided that he was up to no good. And so they approached the gentleman. Well, he didn't speak English and didn't understand what they were saying. They were also not dressed in their uniforms. They were dressed as street people. And so thinking that they don't know what he was thinking. They think maybe he was thinking he was going to be mugged, or maybe he was trying to get his identification, but he reached into his coat pocket. Well, what was the immediate assumption of these 4 rookie policemen? And one of them saw, as he pulled out the wallet, something black, and shouts, "He's got a gun!" And they immediately started firing. Well, 41 shots later, this gentleman was dead. And Charlene, you can give her how to turn her phone off lessons later. It's so funny. 41 shots later, The gentleman was dead. And what happened, though, with these 4 rookie policemen was once he fell to the ground and was dead, and in the stress of the situation, they're looking around for the gun that they swore they saw, and they can't find it. And they're devastated. And they're crying. They were certain they had seen the gun. And he tells this story to awaken within us how quickly we are to snap to judgments, thinking one thing is one thing and another is another. So Linda, will you assist me again? You might have to share. Another one? So the object of this is to not read the word, but say the color that the word actually is. How well are you doing? Find that you're switching back and forth? Yep. Jean's going to pass this exam. She's determined. I can see it. Right? Tough, right? So what happens in an exercise like this is our right brain is arguing with our left brain. Our left brain wants to read the word. And it is our right brain that we need to use in order to see the color and announce the color. But we're crossing over a requirement that takes left brain, which is say the color, and a visual experience, which is our right brain. Very challenging. Imagine what's happening to us in the real world all the time. How fooled are we about what we think is happening out there? Ernest Holmes says, each person has a mental atmosphere which is the result of all he has thought, said, and done, and consciously and unconsciously perceived. The mental atmosphere is very real. And it is that subtle influence which constitutes the power of personal attraction. For personal attraction has but little to do with looks. Has nothing to do with what we're looking at. It's all about something much deeper. So, we can take time each day and we can check out our thoughts and try to figure out what our thinking is. And we can dig around and say, you know, that thought's really not serving me. We talk about that in our teaching all the time. You know, what are you thinking? Look at your life. You know what you're thinking by the effects that are happening in your life. And you can change those effects by having a new thought. So pay attention to what you're thinking, right? No problem. What are you thinking? How many of us are actually aware of the mental atmosphere of our own minds that are going on? I mean, at some level, maybe yes, right? But there's such a deep, deep conversation that's going on with us all the time. Truth is when we study and we go to classes and we start to do research, like in our class Power of Decision, studying Raymond Charles Barker, he says there's an intelligent use of the law and an unintelligent use of the law. And I really like and I agree, we both really like that explanation. It's not like, oh, you're more spiritual and you're less spiritual. It's like, no. We're all spiritual. But here's how it works. You have a thought. And like they were talking in the Tao last night, right? You have a thought, it creates an experience, and then it goes into being. Or you have an experience with that thought, and then it's a being, the effect of it. So that's how it works. Now we know how it works. We can either use how it works intelligently or unintelligently. We have choice in that. And so we can look at the thoughts that we might catch ourselves in a thought. Maybe we notice a thought, like earlier today I was really nervous. In fact, I was bossing Jason around, wasn't I, Jason? Yeah. Wasn't very kind. And so, right? And so I caught myself in a reaction. And a reaction is a perfect opportunity for me to stop and go, wow, what's going on? Because if I'm in a reaction, I'm not acting consciously. I'm being run by a deeper thought. I might figure it out and I might not, but I sat with it for some time and apologized and thanked him for setting the chairs up. And so we can replace these less intelligent thoughts with more intelligent thoughts. The summary today gives us an opportunity to note our thoughts, write them down, the ones that don't serve us. What am I thinking? Write it down, catch ourselves, like maybe have a little notebook and pull it out. What am I thinking right now? And use that as an exercise to become more aware of our thoughts. But I have one more experiment for you. Handy Linda, she's so great at helping me. You are brilliant. You can share this one too. Pass them around. We're up here. Again, right? Did you catch the double buzz the first time? Uh-huh. How well do you think we're going to be at noticing what we're thinking? It's my experience, I do a lot of my own counseling with other people and revealing what's running in the background noise of my mind. I also work with other people in life coaching and counseling, and it's my experience that we haven't a clue what we're thinking most of the time. We might think we know what we're thinking, but really we haven't a clue. I was working with somebody yesterday, and they were, and off they were going, and I'm like, wow, are you ever mad at your dad? And they went, what? I wasn't even talking about him. I'm like, it's pretty obvious to me. They had no idea that that's what they were doing. And yet, all I had to do was pin together a few comments, and it was like, that's obvious. So obvious. And yet we blindside ourselves to our own thinking. So what are we going to do? Oh my gosh, I can't find the double buzz in the sentence. I can't say the color of the word because my mind wants to say the word. For the life of me, I read scrambled letters and I can understand it. What the heck? How am I going to put this teaching into action when what we teach is change your thinking, change your life? Well, there is a way. And what we can do is we can take this as if it's a murky glass, like that kombucha back there, a murky glass of cranberry juice. And we want to have clear thinking. We want to see through the juice to the other side. We just start pouring thoughts that we want to have into the glass. We condition the mind in ways that serves us. Again, an experiment Malcolm Gladwell was talking about, they had this line, red line, and they asked people to walk on this red line. And no matter what, don't leave the red line. So the person starts walking along the red line. And all of a sudden they let a pit bull go. Right towards the person, and of course, and off the red line. They go, no. It's on a short leash. It's going to miss you by this much, which they observe. The dog can't get to the red line. Walk the red line. Okay, so off they go again. Walk the red line. They let the pit bull off, and they just maybe jump the first time. And they keep doing it over and over until they can walk the red line. The pit bull comes out, and they don't falter. So there they are, walking the red line. And all of a sudden, the pit bull comes out, and they don't falter, and it jumps on them and knocks them over. And they're like, ah! And they're like, what the heck? I thought it was on a line. Well, they didn't notice that the pit bull had a muzzle on it, and it can't hurt them. So this time, they walk the red line. Only this time, they know it's off the leash, but it has a muzzle on it. And they repeat it, and they repeat it until they don't fall off the red line. And so the experiment goes until their stress level is so nothing when they see a pit bull, no matter what's going on. They're able to stay on the red line. This is the diligence that we have to practice with affirmative thoughts. That kind of diligence of staying true to the thinking that I want to experience. Do you see how hard it is for that person to stay on the red line? Can you imagine how hard it would be for you? It takes diligence to change our thinking. It takes practice. It takes prayer. It takes affirmation. It takes awareness. It takes hanging around with friends who have the same kind of thinking. And we continue to walk that line. Walk that line. What is it I want to think? And so we can add positive thoughts into the murky glass. And eventually what happens is it will overflow and replace with clear thinking. And it takes practice. And it takes diligence. Over time, it will happen. That's why today there's a prayer workshop at 12:30 that I'm hosting. If you want to come and learn how to do your own prayer, I'll show you how. And you walk and stay online. You walk and stay on the line. And so what we focus on expands. So you have many pieces of paper I handed out today. And you probably have a pencil. What do you want to expand in your life? I would like you to write it down right now. What thought can you put into your mind that you would like to keep with you in your pocket and have that be the clear water that dissipates all thinking? Does it have a wrong date? No.
There's a prayer workshop?
Oh, that's wrong. Sorry, it's 12:30. Good thing I mentioned it. What thought do you want? What do you want your thought, that clear water that you want to be pouring into your mind, to filter into your consciousness? What is it you want to know as you walk that line? That truth that stays no matter what happens. And work on it diligently until that becomes your gut reaction, no matter what. Love is everywhere. It can be simple as that. Love is my guide. Love is my truth. Love holds me. Light guides my way. Peace is my presence. What is it? And while you're thinking of that, I'm going to end us today in a prayer. Join me if you will. In knowing that there is just one power, one intelligence. And that is the intelligence that guides me all the time. I pray this truth over and over again. There is one intelligence, one God, one Spirit, and that is my intelligence, my thought. And I allow myself to sink into the truth of this, that all the beliefs that color and cloud me from the truth of spirit and action everywhere present, of goodness everywhere, all those beliefs that color this truth dissipate and dissolve. They no longer have power over me. For I give 100% power to love, to peace, to power, to life, to light, to joy, to beauty, to God. God is all there is. This I hold as my truth. It is my life. It is the life of every person. And every person has the same rights to their life that I have to mine. This is my first thought. And I am so grateful for it. I'm so grateful to be here now and to share in diversity and inclusivity. I'm so grateful for the light of truth, of spirit and action everywhere. I'm so grateful for you. And so I surrender and I let go and allow this principle to be the guiding principle of my life each and every day. And so it is.
So it is.
Thank you, my friends.
Monica.
cow, that was awesome.